This is an NBC 10 News podcast.
Congressman Seth are running for re-election, the Democrat from the 2nd District, making the case why he deserves another term. He was on Gene Off Script with me, too. You want a second bite of the apple. Now, you got a couple of Republicans who say you don't deserve it. So go ahead, make the case. I'll give you 30 seconds here. Why do I deserve it?
You know, I think we're at a critical time in our country right now.
Yep.
The system has become so corrupt that you have billionaires plundering the Treasury while average people, working people, can't afford health care, can't afford housing, can't afford the essentials. So I'm fighting to lower costs. I want to get rid of the tariffs that are raising costs on the American people. I want to end the war in Iran that's raising gas prices. I want to restore funding for health care. But more than all of that, I want to get at the corruption that's been eating at the system. Donald Trump is at the center of that, but it's not just him. Yeah. I want to ban members of Congress from trading stocks. I want to end the corruption coming out of the Oval Office, get dark money out of our elections, make government work for working people again. That's my mission, and that's why I'm seeking another term.
First term, when you were running, you told me almost the same thing toward the end. I want to ban insider trading. Trading, that's Nancy Pelosi and company. And by the way, we've had some of your colleagues here in Rhode Island. They made a lot of money, too, trading stocks. You talked about that a few years back, yet nothing has happened. Why? In fact, you had a piece of legislation, you voted against it. So go ahead and make that clear.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm the lead sponsor of the main bill to ban stock trading in Congress and in the Oval Office. A bipartisan bill. I've worked with the Democrats and Republicans to push for this much-needed reform because people who hold public office should be focused on serving the people, not getting rich themselves. Now, I think what you alluded to is that a couple weeks ago, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, put a bill on the floor that was really, in my view, a voter suppression bill. It would have gutted mail-in voting, which is very important to seniors and others who vote by mail. It would have changed the rules for elections when voting had already started and really put things into chaos. And they put a few restrictions, not a full ban like I want, but a few restrictions on stock trading in there too, I think just to sweeten the deal a little bit. But listen, I think that gutting mail ballots is a bad idea, and changing the rules of elections when people are already voting is a bad idea. What I want is a clean up or down vote on my stock trading ban. And I have a commitment, by the way, from Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, that if Democrats are in the majority in the next Congress, he will put my bill up for a vote, and I do believe it will pass. And I'm going to keep fighting for it.
Well, that's a big if. If we don't know what's going to happen. You didn't get very far with banning insider trading in Congress when Nancy Pelosi was the Speaker.
Well, so my bill right now, I've got 191 members of the House who have signed on to support it, 191. We got to get to 218. So we're making progress. When I started, by the way, we were nowhere near 191. So we're making progress. And again, I've got a commitment, for the first time, really, that a leader of either party in the House has committed to putting this up for a vote. Hakeem Jeffries has committed, if we're in the majority next year, which I hope and I think we will be, Democrats in the majority, that we will vote on this bill and we can actually get something done that people want that I think will help get at the corruption that is just ruining Washington.
All right, so I just want to nail this down. There was a piece of legislation a couple of weeks ago to ban insider trading. You voted against it.
False. No, sorry, just not to correct it. It would not have banned it. It had a few restrictions, but it also would have gutted mail-in voting and changed the rules for elections.
I'm going to get to that. You're basically saying that the Republicans wanted to trick us. That, they had a couple of things that I like, but it was attached to the mail-in voting reform, so that's why I voted against. And you recorded the video. You felt you had to come and explain that because some of your critics said, wait a minute, Magaziner, he's the guy who wants to ban it. He just voted against it.
I think this is the reason that people hate Washington, right? Because they see politicians in Washington playing games. And that is what Speaker Johnson did in this case. He was playing a game where he was trying to, I think he was basically trying to suck up to the president and help him promote his conspiracies about mail-in voting, which of course we've had in Rhode Island for a long time and is safe and is necessary, especially for seniors. And then they conflated it by putting in a few restrictions on stock trading too. To try to get people to vote, a certain way. And so, look, what we need to do is a straight up or down vote. Straight up or down vote on my stock trading ban. I want that. I'm fighting for that. I think we're going to get it next year. And by the way, if you want to have straight up or down votes on mail-in voting or other things, then fine. But it was a deliberate choice by the Speaker to put all of these things together into one bill. And frankly, I think it was an attempt to try to trick people, and it's unfortunate.
I know you've used the word conspiracy here. You know, in New Jersey, they just had 6,600 non-citizens registered to vote. 400 of them did. We use the same vendor in our registry here. There's an investigation going on to see if we have any of that. And voter ID is very popular, even in your own party. A majority of Democrats said, absolutely, do whatever you have to do. And mail-in ballots. You know, a state representative, Enrique Sanchez, just posted a tweet saying, I'm pushing hundreds of mail-in ballots for candidate Morales and the Providence mayor. Isn't that an abuse? Isn't there room for reform there, even with mail-in ballots, which is very important to your party?
Yeah, it is very, well, mail-in ballots are important to everybody, but listen,
you do it better.
No,
the Democrats do it better.
So listen, it is very important that we have elections that are secure. I sit on the Committee for Homeland Security, and I'm very concerned about cyber threats against our elections, very concerned about other attempts to undermine our elections. The New Jersey situation is serious. And I think that Secretary of State Amore here in Rhode Island is right to have launched an investigation to make sure
it's a review. He's called it a review.
That the same glitch did not happen here. There's no evidence so far that's come out that it happened here in Rhode Island.
But it certainly is curious. It's the same.
Well, it is worth investigating and being vigilant about that.
Okay.
I've also been on the record saying that if there is a bill on the floor that had a simple voter ID requirement like we have in Rhode Island, and it's done the right way, that's likely something that I would support. What I don't support is getting rid of mail-in voting. What I don't support is what we've seen from President Trump, a so-called voter ID bill that would have essentially made it, so that you had to bring your birth certificate, women who had changed
prove
their
your
names.
citizenship.
Well, or, but would have done it in a way that was like very onerous.
Right.
In Rhode Island, I think we do it the right way, where we have provisional ballots. So if someone shows up at the polls and they've forgotten their license, they can still fill out a ballot, and then after the fact, they can go back and say, now I have my ID with me, and you can see, so that my ballot should count. You got to do it the right way. And I think in Rhode Island, we strike the right balance. If there is a national solution that is like Rhode Island's, I would be open to that.
More now from Congressman Seth Magaziner. Do you take the Republican Vic Meller and the other Republican Dr. Scully running against you? Do you take them seriously? Particularly Vic Meller says he's got $6 million to spend. He's aggressive with commercials and billboards. This was Vic Meller said he wants to take you out. Go ahead and play Vic Meller, the bottom soundbite. Why does he have to go? You've got to give us a headline. Well, why does he have to go?
Because Rhode Island's last. Rhode Island is last in everything, and he supports all this socialist agenda. He votes yes on everything that pushes this socialist agenda. And that's why I'm here. I am here. We have to save our state. We have to save our country. And that's the way to do it. We have to do it in the ballot box, sir.
All right, listen, I know he's politically unknown here, but he's got $6 million. He said, I'm going to spend that. Do you believe that's real, and is he a real threat to you, Vic Meller?
I don't know if what's real or not with him. What I do know is that he is going to push for the same policies that are hurting working people in Rhode Island. He is a supporter of the tariffs, which are raising costs on Rhode Islanders. He supported the bill to cut health care funding that's driving up people's insurance premiums. He's supported the war in Iran that's got our gas over $4 a gallon now.
He's with Trump. He'll admit to that. He said, call me, I'm proudly with Donald Trump. General Flynn is my friend. He says, by the way, this is what's going to save Rhode Island. So go ahead.
Listen, what is hurting Rhode Islanders right now is the high costs, which are not happening by accident. They are happening because of the tariffs, which he supports, because of the war, which he supports, because of the health care cuts that he supports. And so at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is who is fighting for Rhode Islanders. Not who is fighting for some Washington, D.C. agenda, but who is fighting for Rhode Islanders. I am fighting for lower costs, for better health care. I'm fighting against the corruption that is hurting working people in our state and in our country. And when I see, frankly, both of my Republican opponents, what I see is rubber stamps for President Trump who are not actually going to put Rhode Islanders first.
Okay, he also, by the way, I want to fact check what he just said there. In fact, you know what, go ahead and play him again, because he talks about us being at the bottom of the list. And he's right about that. CNBC dropped again. Infrastructure way down. Go ahead and play, and we'll fact check the first half of this. Go ahead and play Vic Meller one more time for me. Why does he have to go? You've got to give us a headline. Well, why does he have to go?
Because Rhode Island's last. Rhode Island is last in everything, and he supports all this socialist agenda. He votes yes on everything that pushes this socialist agenda. And that's why I'm here. I am here. We have to save our state. We have to save our country. And that's the way to do it. We have to do it in the ballot box, sir.
All right, look, he's right about these CNBC infrastructure, a whole host of other things. It's embarrassing, but we're at the bottom. Now, I don't know that you support the socialist agenda. No. In fact, I've been asking every candidate who comes in, do you renounce socialism?
So I've never called myself a socialist. Right. I'll tell you what I believe. I believe that government has a role to make people's lives better, to make sure people have access to health care and good public education and job training and all of that. But I also believe in freedom, and I believe that people don't want government running everything. Yep. And so I think that's just common sense. I would like to respond to what he said, though, if I could.
Absolutely.
Listen, we know that not everything in Rhode Island is perfect. That's why I've been fighting hard, along with the rest of the congressional delegation, to deliver more funding for roads and bridges, to deliver funding for the economy. You know, we just announced yesterday a big new contract for Electric Boat to build more submarines.
Yes.
You know, we are really focused on doing everything we can from Congress to help Rhode Island economically. But as I understand it, Mr. Meller lived in Florida for the last 30 years, just moved back to Rhode Island this past fall to run against me. And with all due respect, I mean, Florida has a much higher crime rate and murder rate than Rhode Island. Florida has much higher rate of people without health insurance than Rhode Island. Florida has, I think, lower even per capita income.
I'm not
than
sure
Rhode
where
Island.
you're going with this.
Well, what I'm going
you can't blame him for Florida. He just lived
but what
there.
I'm saying is, like, when he says that Rhode Island is last, I mean, I don't want Rhode Island to be Florida. Florida has higher crime. Florida has worse health insurance. Florida has, you know, higher poverty rate. And so if his goal is to make Rhode Island more like his home state of Florida that he lived in for the last 30 years, that's not what we want. I understand we've got work to do in Rhode Island, and I'm working hard to do it. But you know, I don't take kindly to someone, you know, from Florida lecturing Rhode Island about what's wrong with our state.
I should tell you, there's a lot of Rhode Islanders who run to Florida to beat the millionaire's tax and everything else. And by the way, a lot of Democrats get down there to raise money. There's so many Rhode Islanders down there with money, right? You work the Palm Beach section sometimes?
I've never had a fundraiser in Florida.
You've never had a fundraiser in Florida?
No.
Okay. Dr. Scully, who is a native Rhode Islander and is an oral surgeon, he's also vying to take you out. He has to get past Meller first. Let's hear from him.
He voted against the Save American Act. That's voter integrity. Americans, Rhode Islanders, they don't want foreign citizens deciding their elections. Another example, he voted against the Lake and Riley Act, which would have taken an illegal immigrant who committed a crime and deported him. Rhode Islanders want that. He's voting against that. He's voting with the whole Democratic ideology, some of which has put Rhode Island last in a lot of issues.
Yep.
We need somebody to cooperate. We have a Republican Congress.
Yep.
We have a Republican administration. We need to cooperate. There's got to be a lot of these big issues that we're going to face, they're going to require bipartisan consensus.
All right.
And that's what I think I bring to the table.
All right, Congressman, go ahead and fact check them. You voted against this, you voted against that.
Well, let me say again, as I view it, and I focus on running my own race, but as I view it, I think both of my Republican opponents would continue to push for the same agenda that is hurting Rhode Islanders, right? They support the tariffs that are raising costs. They support the healthcare costs that are causing people's premiums to skyrocket. They support the Iran war, which is raising the cost of gas, wasting billions of dollars overseas that should be spent here at home instead. So I think that's the real contrast in this race.
But fact check them on those two for me.
And you know, we already talked about
the Lake and Riley Act. That was
Yeah. So listen, I think we need an immigration system that is safe and fair, and I support border security as a member of the Homeland Security Committee, but I also think it's important that we have due process. And the problem with that particular bill is that it would have allowed people to be locked up and deported without any sort of a trial, without any sort of a due process, right? And we have seen instances, and I've seen this on the Homeland Security Committee, of U.S. citizens being locked up accidentally and later released. We've seen instances of, you know, children, people who, you know, were not the people that ICE was going after, being locked up, detained, and in some cases deported. So I think you need to have due process. I have voted for other bills, Republican bills, by the way, to strengthen border security, to make it easier to deport people who have committed serious crimes, domestic violence, and assaulting police officers. I voted for bills to make it easier to deport people who have done those things. But I thought that particular bill went too far because in this country, in our system, everybody is entitled to a hearing, everybody's entitled to due process. That's the way it should be. To protect the innocent, by the way.
All right, that's 10 News Conference on NBC 10. Be sure to join me on Coastal ABC, weekday mornings, 10 a.m. for Gene Off Script. Have a great rest of your weekend.